Welcome. It is time to find that perfect home in Denton, Texas. We're going to go through quite a few things today, so I think it's just best that I break down what this series is about. So finding your perfect home series. This is the series where we look at the real estate in a specific area. So in this particular case, we're talking about Denton, and look at different things to really ask yourselves or really get clarity on before you even consider making the move. So there's 3 questions that you have to ask yourself and really establish before you start down the path of trying to get pre-qualified, looking at homes, getting frustrated, getting upset that your offers aren't getting accepted, and everything in between. So again, there's 3 questions that we need to ask ourselves so we get that clarity and have a very mission-focused approach to home buying. Now, the second part of our conversation today in our live stream today is we're going to look at a specific property in the Denton area. We're going to look at the pictures, so the images, as if you were looking at this home for the very first time. And I'm going to point out a few things to consider as you're going and touring the property itself. So again, you don't want to purchase a home that's going to ultimately lead to buyer's remorse because that happens too much. So there's a few pointers that I want to share with you, and also we're going to go into the description to give you some highlights on some things that are going to be important for you to look at as you're searching for property online, and some things that just might not be that important after all. Eli, what's up? Good seeing you. Good seeing you. I appreciate you hopping on. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit early today, but we're making it happen. And then the last part of our conversation today is going to be about breaking down the numbers. I'm going to give you 3 distinct ways to purchase the property that we go with here in Denton, Texas. So we're going to analyze the property in depth, and very, very much in depth. And then we're going to go into 3 different types of loan programs that you can use to purchase that property. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to look at the area, we're going to look at a specific property, and then we're going to ultimately go through the financing to see what that would look like from a monthly mortgage payment. So let's get going. That is our roadmap for today. So let's start off by going to the area, the scene of the, I was about to say the scene of the crime, but I don't want to say that. Let's go to Denton, Texas. All right, so we have Denton, Texas. There's 510 homes or properties averaging $492,000 for sale right now. So there's 510 properties available for sale at the moment with just under $500,000 asking price or average price. So we're going to take off the condos, multifamily, commercial, land, townhouse, residential lease, and farm and ranch. We're only going to leave the single family residences so we can start searching through those homes right now. So again, there's really things that you want to get out of the way just right out of the gate in order to make your home purchase a lot easier. So one of the first questions that you want to ask yourself in relation to where you're going to move to is, what type of commute do you need? So essentially it's 3 C's that we're going to look at today. So C number 1 is commute. What type of commute are you looking for? If you're going to be in Denton, I'm going to tell you, you are committed to working in and around this area. Now, I can say this personally because I actually used to live in Denton and work in Denton alike. So I've both lived in Denton and worked in Denton, but I've also worked in Denton and lived over here in the Castle Hills area right off of Hebron. So I can tell you that this little commute, especially when I was doing it before the I-35 was actually updated and the new bridge was up, it was disastrous. It was very challenging. So again, commute is something that we really need to understand and really get right with, so you know your responsibilities outside of the home. So if you're going to go to the office, as an example, to downtown Fort Worth, believe it or not, that's actually not going to be terrible. It's not going to be as bad as if you had to go into Dallas, because if you went down the Dallas side, your average commute's going to be well within the hour. Over here, it would be about 45 to 55 minutes. Still not pleasant per se, but here you can just rip it down I-35 west and go to 80, 85 if you so chose. Not asking you to break the law, but I kind of just did. Commute, that's super important. The second thing to answer for yourself is, what type of community do you look for? What type of activities do you need outside of that room, outside of that house that you're going to be in, right? So are you a lake person? Well, then it's pretty important that you be close to a lake. Are you someone that enjoys going on walks, going to recreation centers, going to events, going a ton of entertainment options? Well, Denton would be a really good candidate for that. Denton has a ton of festivals, has a ton of things to do outdoors, tons of things to do just outside. So Denton is pretty, one, historically relevant, and also just pretty culturally relevant for everything that it offers. So again, Denton is it's a phenomenal community. It's one that it's living in here and working here sometime that I really do appreciate quite a bit. So community, you need to understand that for yourself. What type of lifestyle are you looking to build? And the third C is the cost. What type of budget are you working with? You might have the commute right. You might want to live here. Your community might be perfect. You want to live in Denton because of the community, but if the cost is not right, if the budget is not substantial enough, then that could cut you off from being able to afford this area. So again, those are the 3 C's to look for: commute, community, and cost whenever you're looking for a place to live. Now, with that being said, we're going to really more focus on the real estate part to really make use of our time together. So we're going to look at the real estate and understand what type of real estate is available for sale in Denton, and then we're going to drill down into a specific home so we can run some numbers behind it and understand what the property taxes implications are, homeowners insurance, financing between conventional, FHA, and other types of loans, and ultimately see how much it's going to cost for us to buy a home and also keep it for about 10 to 20 years. With that being said, the most affordable, the least expensive home for sale in Denton right now is $190,000. That is the least expensive home for sale right now. Now, oftentimes, whenever we look at homes specifically in the lowest price range, which is where we're at right now, you can see a lot of homes that are either they're termed very differently. You're going to hear them be referenced as fix and flips, fixer uppers, investor specials. There's just going to be so many different terminology that you're going to hear, but essentially it's going to be properties that investors would look at and are purchasing, not because they want to live in there, but because they want to rehab them and bring them to life and ultimately bring them back out to the market. As you see here, this is a rehabbed home. This is really where you're looking for investment opportunities. Now, again, the lowest price homes typically that's where you're going to end up. That's what you're going to end up finding, homes that could use a little bit of work. So the sold as is type of property. Now, let's look at real estate prices real quick. Then we'll hop over to luxury and very, very quickly hop into some numbers. So there's 2 homes available for sale in Denton right now under $200,000. And there's about 10, 18. There's going to be about 20 homes under $300,000 right now in Denton. So if your budget is up to $300,000, you're actually going to see some very good options here. Now, you're not going to see a ton of options, but you are going to see about 20 to 25 different homes to look at, and most of these are going to be ready to go as is, where you don't need necessarily spend a ton of money rehabbing and a ton of time rehabbing as well. Now, the bulk of your inventory, especially here in Denton, is going to be found around the $300,000 to $500,000 price point. That's where you're going to see the bulk amount of your inventory. There's a ton of property just like this in this price point. As you can see here, the first 2 pages that we've been scrolling through have all been in the 300s, and you see a ton of opportunity. We were just hitting the $350,000 mark, and you're seeing a good amount of brick, a good amount of landscaping, a good amount of 2 stories, a good amount of well-maintained properties that you have access to under $400,000. Again, we're still in the $400,000. Now, with Denton, you are going to still see some new builds, which is awesome. New construction is one of our favorites and really where we specialize. Now, that's one thing. You are going to see some new construction, but the second thing that I look for is at what price point? At what price point can we expect new construction? So here is the first new construction property available for sale right now, and that's $385,000. So for under $400,000, you're still looking at new build, which is phenomenal, especially with it being Denton. So this one even looks like new, and this one is straight up new. So for under $400,000, you still have opportunities to purchase a home that's brand new, which is a rarity, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But let's allow ourselves to dream for a quick second. Let's allow ourselves to go beyond our present circumstances and go into the luxury space for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to come back to earth and do some numbers, some real numbers. Now, here in Denton, the most expensive home for sale right now is almost $6 million. We're going to call it $6 million for the purposes of our search today. Now, I know this is Argyle, but Argyle is one of those cities that kind of, I want to say it's misunderstood. And the reason I say that is because there's going to be some addresses that say Argyle but are actually Denton, like technically Denton. There's going to be some addresses that say Argyle but are actually Flower Mound addresses. So Argyle doesn't get the respect that it deserves, in my opinion. So while this is actually a Denton address, it is reflected as Argyle, and that's, I mean, in this area, that's essentially that happens quite a bit. So Argyle, again, is misunderstood. You're going to see some addresses that say, that may say Argyle one day, then it'll say Denton the other day, or say Argyle one day and then Flower Mound the next day. So again, it's a little misunderstood, but we're gonna look in here for just a peek. Again, we're just gonna spend a couple of seconds dreaming about what this type of property would look like for us. So we have a $6 million property. Now this is a ranch, so I'm expecting a horse property. If the barns give it away, and basically the area, I know this area quite well, you're going to see a ton of this type of real estate, which is one of my favorites. 8 bedrooms, 6 baths, 6 full baths, 6,500 square feet, and 17 acres. So we're going to breeze right through the images. Again, we're not going to spend our time here all that much, but I do want to show you what this type of real estate, especially in the luxury space or this price point, brings you. You're going to see the barns back here, the show barns, the training area, the stables, all that fun stuff. Now this is a horse property, horse and ranch. We get a ton of that type of activity in the northwest side of, we're really in the west side of town. Town being Dallas-Fort Worth, by the way. And then you also see some over here outside. So you see more and more horse properties around here. Argyle's just known for it. Denton's known for it. So you're in a good spot. If you're into horses, if you're into equestrian, this is your spot. I mean, there's really no other place that's better. You have all of those. So again, this is on 17 acres, about $6 million. And you're going to get everything, absolutely everything. Now this looks like the primary house. You typically do see multiple properties on site, especially with this amount of acreage, and that was the home. So as you can see, what's being highlighted more is the area, more the amenities, the horse. We saw maybe 2 images of the property itself. So don't be surprised, that is very common. I can't even find it now. Anyway, let's go back and actually do some digging into some numbers that we're actually going to be able to use. What we want to do here is we're going to go into mid-price homes. Let's call it $500,000 because that's around the average price point in Denton at the moment. And we're going to run some numbers to see what that looks like for us from a cost perspective. I like the fact that this is updated. Let's see. Which one do we want to do? I mean, every time you do dusk photography, I'm down for that. I'm down. But let's go with this one. Let's see if this one treats us right. No, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm a little bit biased. Let's go with this one. They won me over. All right, so let's look at this property itself as if we were going to purchase it, right? So I want to give you some pointers. I want to give you some suggestions as to what to look for when you're looking on at property online. So I'm going to go and simulate the experience for you, because most likely you're probably looking on Zillow anyway. So I want to go and share with you the things that I would look for whenever I'm looking for a home. And by the way, I'm going to hop into my car here in a little bit. My family's in town. We're going to go look at some property. So I am actively looking, coincidentally. So I am trying to add to the investment portfolio, and today's going to be the day. But with that being said, I'm going to share my perspective as if I was looking through this and myself was going to purchase a property like this. Now, quick disclaimers. Number one, the small things can lend themselves to the larger things. I know that sounds pretty dumb, and it kind of is, but basically the small things say a lot. It can say a lot about the larger things. So as an example, you might hear me call out the landscaping. For you might think, well, that's a little bit nitpicky, that's a little bit that just, you're being too critical. Well, the reason I call out the landscaping as an example, while it might seem like a small thing, really that tells us and can tell us a lot about the larger thing. So if we're not taking care of the landscape as an example, well, I don't really have a ton of confidence that the HVAC is being serviced. I don't really have a lot of confidence that something that maybe the air filters they're not being replaced periodically. The water heater is not being attended to and drained out as it should every couple years, right? So it's something that the small things can really say a lot about the big things. So that's disclaimer number one. So when you hear me talk what might feel a little bit more a little bit tedious, if you will, a little bit like, wow, this person's just judging, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Now the second thing that I want to share is that some of the when you go and search for property, when you go and look at homes, you're going to spend 30 to 45 minutes before you make your decision of purchasing a home. So whenever you go and look at a home, especially in a really contested market and really hot real estate market, your showing time is going to be 30 to 45 minutes. And then you're going to decide, hey, I want to put an offer on this property. Well, I don't know about you, but for 30 to 45 minutes, I would argue it's not really enough time for you to really feel extremely comfortable with that decision. Now, sure, you can come back for a second showing. No one's going to stop you from that. But sometimes the real estate market is just so hot and heavy that you don't have that much time. There's back in the day, like 2 years ago, when prices were just absolutely bonkers, we would have, I would just get calls from clients saying, hey, I want this house. All right, let's go check it out. And by the time that we were getting to the front door, basically, I was getting calls from the listing agent. Hey, we've already accepted an offer, and that property was just on the market a couple of hours. So that's how crazy it's been, or has been historically. So let's look at this property again. Wanted to share those things. The small things really say a lot about the large things. That's number one. And number two, when you're looking at property, you're not spending a ton of time in here. So I'm going to call out a few things that you might sound a little bit judgmental, might sound a little bit critical, but that's where I'm coming from. All right, so let's look at this property all together. Let's see and point out a few things that are very beneficial for you. So this property, let's look at some very basic information, and then we'll drill down. 4 beds, 2.5 bath, almost 2,900 square feet on a fourth of an acre, 515. Awesome. All right, so this looks like this does not look like a full 2-story home. This is probably a 1.5 story, and I'll share what that means here shortly. One thing that really jumps out right out of the gate just from the design of this property is I'm used to seeing windows here. So I'm curious to see what's behind this, because I'm used to seeing windows here. This does look a little bit off in my opinion. Now I do like the porch. That's awesome. I like that. I like the stone. It really accents the brick and everything behind that. So I do like that. I do see that there's some gutters in place, which is awesome. You don't have to invest in doing the gutters, which I don't know what year this was built, but 2004, 20-year-old property. At some point, the owner, whoever that happened to be, at what point in time, they put in some gutters, so you save yourself that cost. There's not a ton of hardscaping here or landscaping here. There's a few shrubs that really are not seasonal, so there's not going to be a ton of maintenance whenever you purchase this property. And it also does look like it's been relatively well maintained. So from the outside, I really have no complaint. As you're walking in, you're gonna go into some tile flooring, and then you're gonna have some hardwood on the right hand side. So again, I don't necessarily know what's here on the left hand side because there's no window out there, and there's also nothing over here. So I'm curious to see what that is, because I believe the garage is over here based off of the driveway that I'm seeing. All right, so you have some tile, and then I'm gonna guess that this is, as you walk straight through, and it looks like there's a pool back there, you're gonna be met with your living room, which is awesome, and that might be quartz countertops that I'm looking at over there on the kitchen. So yeah, you have the entrance, and then you're right into the living room, and then you over here you have your dining room. Very well placed, very well designed, pretty cool layout. And here you have your countertops. I'm sorry, your kitchen. Now I could be seeing things, maybe just the shade, but this looks like a different type of stain than this one. This looks a little bit darker than this more lighter brown, but it could be just the lighting. I do like those shelves right there. Those shelves with the backsplash on the back, that is pretty dope, pretty cool. And you do have backsplash here as well, so it's not tiled. This is more like granite back here, so that's pretty unique. That's not something you see every day. Okay. I like the island. I like this teal looking color here. Good design, pretty unique. So this was updated at some point. This could have actually even been added after the fact, because they went ahead and redid the cabinets. Because here, if this all would have been done at the same time, then these would have been replaced and would have gone with the new modern cabinets as well. So this was added. This island was added at a later date. This did not come in the year that it was built of 2000. Then you have your dining room. This appears to be a secondary bedroom, not your primary. This is a room that has been that is being used as an office at the moment. This is an original since the 2000s bathroom, so nothing really here appears to be updated. The shower head appears to be the same. The faucet, the fixtures, everything appears to be the same, and it looks pretty well maintained. So it's something to look at. Here's your primary. So your primary, and actually all of your bedrooms have, this type of flooring. So for some of you, this might be awesome. So for some of you, you might like this hardwood. Some of you might not. Some of you might prefer the carpet. So you have a very, very sizable primary bedroom. And your primary bath. So you have a tub and a shower, and your his and hers sinks over here. And I don't think we're gonna get a shot of the closet, but it looks decent size from what I can see, from where I can see, the very corner that I can see. And this is your half upstairs. So remember, I think this is a half. So basically the stairs go up through here, and this is going to be one, possibly two rooms up here. And this one was converted to be a room. Typically you'll see more of an entertainment space up here, like put your movies out here. It's but sometimes they do convert them into bedrooms, or being more used as a bedroom than anything else, or an office. You'll usually see offices up here. Now that's either an air conditioner. Yeah, that's an air conditioning unit. So it might be a mini split there. No, yeah, I think so. Is that an actual safe? Okay, so you have an actual safe here. This is the garage. So you're gonna have a safe there. I'm assuming that's gonna stay. There is a pool back here, which is very decent sized pool. I do like this right here. This looks pretty cool, where it's pretty much baked into the house. This backyard patio here, which, I mean, this is really good photography. You have privacy fences, which have a lot of room on them, like have a lot of room to a lot of life in them. So it looks like it's been recently been updated. So you have a really good looking property here. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy a lot of parts of this particular layout, the way that it's been maintained. From what I can see, there's really very little critique from me in that regard, and that's rare. Now, there's probably a little puppy here that went running back and forth, so they had a pet, which no reason to point that out, but just sharing that. I do like the gutters back here all the way around. So again, gutters can't, the moment that you realize they're not there when you have to pay for them. That's really when they become more pressing, right? So, when you notice them. So that's why I do like to call them out. Originally, whenever I'm speaking with, or whenever I'm showing property to clients, I do like to call that out, because installing gutters is not cheap. It can be a very expensive endeavor, and oftentimes we need those gutters in place. All right, so you have a 3-car garage from what I'm seeing here. So you're going to enter on the right hand side of the property. You're going to have your 2-car here, and you're going to have a single here. Good looking home. I'm a fan. You have all that hardscape in here. Very cool. And your community looks pretty nice. Very nice, actually. You have your sidewalks. Properties appear to be very well maintained. There's a good amount of landscaping going on, or maintaining of your yard. So that's cool. Let's buy this. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to run through some numbers in order to see what it actually going to cost us to purchase this home. So we're going to go to our Loan Clarity Advisor tool to come up with 3 different scenarios on 3 different types of loans that we can use to purchase this property. Now, this is linked down below for you to check out. If you don't see this Loan Clarity Advisor tool, then go ahead and either comment down below, because I forgot, or just go to winthehouseyoulove.com and get it there. So that is what we want to do. Okay. Sorry, I'm moving all over the place over here. All right, so let's use this Loan Clarity Advisor tool to go through some numbers. So first off, we're going to need to estimate the taxes and insurance. So we're going to use the exact amounts. So in order for us to acquire that type of information, let's do a little bit more digging real quick, just to get some additional information that we might be needing to use for our loan. So let's just read through here real quick to see if there's anything that we missed on this property, and then we're going to need some key information here, like the county and the school ISD, from the description itself. That's going to help us fill out the information to the best of our ability. So let's just see what else is being said about this property. Step into the heart of the 1.5 story home, our chef's kitchen, newly remodeled. Okay, so 2023, so that's awesome. Imagine preparing meals in a sleek quartz countertop. Yep, so I might have said granite, so quartz countertop, so my apologies on that. With an Italian tile backsplash, adding a touch of elegance to your coffee bar station. Now here I do need to echo that backsplash is quite unique. It's not normal. It looks really nice, but it's not normal. So just appreciate that it's quite unique. The kitchen boasts a gas stove, a dishwasher, and microwave, all just a year old. So again, it was updated, so you're in a good spot. This property is 20 years old. The newly painted kitchen, seating bar, island is perfect for casual meals or entertaining guests. And for those who crave more space, the add-on family room over garage, I've never heard it said this way, frog, family room over garage, okay, offers 350 square feet of versatility. The upgrades don't stop there. New windows installed by Renewal by Anderson in 2023. So you have new windows. Windows are, think of how many windows we're talking about. That is quite a bit of money. Now, along with the new blinds, your home is stylish as it is energy efficient. Dive into the saltwater pool. Saltwater pool is pretty cool, with rock landscaping and a setup for pool fencing. What? And a setup for pool fencing. Okay. Garage includes storm shelter. That was pretty cool. Nestled in a prime location near McNair Elementary, Geyer High School, Wiggly Field Dog Park. This home offers both convenience and luxury. Don't miss out on making this exceptional property your own. Very cool. Let's look at some details real quick. So we are talking about Denton County since we are in technically Denton. Let's see, 2020. So this is 2024. So 20-year-old property. You know, at this point, I would have, although this is all fantastic, we'll need to do the inspection of the HVAC quite extensively to make sure that it's still functioning in the way that it should, because here you're getting towards the end of the life of that particular major expense. Same thing with your water heaters. That's also towards the end of the life when you're talking about 20 years, if not already gone. So you're probably working on the second water heater at this point. Taxes, don't get married to this number. This number is going to change once this property changes hands. One of the reasons is because the assessed value is going to be changed. That you can guarantee that. And then also the homeowner right now has different exemptions most likely than you. So that's something to look forward to. Your taxes are going to be different. Unfortunately, they're probably going to be higher. Just shooting it to you straight. Price $515,000. We're going to pretend that this is going to be the offer price that we're going to make. 4 bedrooms, 2 full baths, 1 half bath, 2851 square footage, lot size a 1/4 of an acre. Very cool. Let's find out if there's an HOA here, which I'm gonna guess there probably is. All right, so this is gonna be standard information. You can check it out here. I'm gonna call out anything that looks interesting to me. So we do have a pool. We did see that. Year built, exclusions, all personal property, TVs, garage, fridge, and freezer. Well, those typically weren't going to be staying anyway, so we're in a good spot. Levels unexempted, will subdivide, subdivision, for sale, owner. HOA type, none. Okay, cool. So no HOA here. So if you're looking for a home in Denton with no HOA that is very well maintained from what I'm seeing, this is it. Cool. All right, so no HOA to think about. What's our ISD again? Should be Denton. Denton, yeah. All right, cool. All right, so let's run some numbers real quick. All right, so we're gonna buy this house for $515. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy this house because we like it. Our HOA is gonna be 0. There's no HOA to speak of, so that's gonna be 0. Now, we factor this in just so you see it on paper, but HOAs are never going to be a part of your monthly mortgage payment. HOAs, if there was one, which there isn't here, but if there was one, you would be paying that based off of an invoice, either at the beginning of the year or quarterly or semi-annually. That's how the HOA fees are collected, not in the mortgage themselves. What is going to be collected in the mortgage itself most likely is going to be the homeowner's insurance. So here's the monthly insurance. For us, we just do a very basic calculation. We multiply the value of the property times 0.75%. So 0.75%. So less than 1% point. So that is just a rough estimate to give us what the premium of that home insurance is going to be. So we're going to just use 0.75% times the value of this home. So let's go with 515 times 0.0075. That gives us a yearly homeowner's insurance premium of $38.62. We're going to divide that by 12 because that was a yearly amount, and this lets us know that we're going to be paying roughly $322 in homeowners insurance. So this is going to be our premium. Now, of course, you might get higher interest premiums, you might get lower interest premiums. This is just more of a ballpark based off of our experience. Homeowners, so now let's talk about property taxes, because property taxes can take a little while to get through. So let's really talk about this for a quick second. So number one, when you buy a property, you are paying property taxes. This might be new to you. If you've been renting for a while, leasing for a while, or just have been living with your parents, no judgment. When you buy a property, you're paying property taxes. That's going to happen. Number two, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the average property tax rate is between 1.8 and 3%. So between 1.8 and 3%. That's going to be the ballpark of your property tax rate. So this whatever tax rate we're talking about, you're going to be multiplying that times the assessed value of your home every single year, and that's what you're paying in property taxes. And that's what this particular homeowner this is what they were paying in property taxes here. So just so we're on the same page. So again, number one, you're paying property taxes. Number two, understand that the the property tax rate in Dallas-Fort Worth right now is about 1.8 to about 3%, depending on the city that you go with. Now, number three, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's up to 5 numbers that you need to find to really calculate your property tax rate overall. The first one's going to be your city tax rate. The second's going to be your county tax rate. Your third's going to be your ISD tax rate, so your school tax rate. These 3 numbers are going to be added together at bare minimum. Like, this is just the starting point. Every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is going to have these 3 numbers: city, county, ISD. In many other cities, though, in most other cities, there's going to be up to 2 more tax rates that you need to factor in your calculation. The next one's going to be your higher education tax, so think of community college, and then a hospital network tax. So think of, if you're in Dallas, think of Parkland. If you're in Fort Worth, think of JPS Health Network. So again, city, county, ISD, these are going to be standard. You're going to be, you need to find those for each city that you go into regardless. And then there's 2 additional ones that might factor in: the higher education and the hospital network. So those are the numbers that we could potentially find as we go and find this information right now for Denton. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Denton, Texas property tax rate. And let's see here if Denton makes it easy. Property taxes, yes, they do. Very good, very good. So what I'm seeing here is that Denton has those 3 that I mentioned and does not have the higher education and does not have the hospital network, which honestly, that does shock me. I do not remember this. Now, well, partly because, when I did live in Denton, I lived in an apartment, multiple apartments. So I didn't own a home at that point. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we have the total. So right now, the property tax rate for Denton, as it sits at the moment, is 2.2. We're going to call it 2.3%. That's pretty high. Not pretty high, I'm sorry. This number right here is high enough to where we can round up. So 2.3% is the property tax rate. So 2.3% is the property tax rate. So what we're going to do now is we are going to use that tax rate and multiply times, here's where I need to make a distinction. We're multiplying times the market value. Market value is what the home can fetch in the open market. That's the market value. What you're actually going to be paying on, though, is the assessed value, which is oftentimes is lower than the market value. So the assessed value can be reduced by you applying exemptions, like a homestead exemption. The assessed value can be reduced by you protesting property taxes. The assessed value can be reduced by you living in that property and it having a certain cap on how much it can actually rise. So a primary homeowner that lives there has most likely a much lower assessed value of their property if they've lived there for 30 years than somebody that bought their house 2 years ago. Because they've every year that they've lived there, there's been a cap on how much their home value can actually rise in assessed value. So that's when I mentioned to you earlier of don't get married to this number because that has really nothing to do with you. That has more to do with the homeowner that has their exemptions already applied and the assessed value that's there. So whenever this property transfers hands, the assessed value is going to change, and obviously the homeowner is going to change. So the exemptions that you have are most likely different than what the present owner has. So let's do this. We're going to multiply times the market value. Again, I'm doing a conservative number here by going off of the higher number. Why? Well, because I want to give you a conservative number, but 2, this way you're not surprised whenever you're at the closing table and find how much of property taxes you're going to be paying. I'd much rather you be surprised right now while you're watching this YouTube video and be more pleasantly surprised down the road whenever you're actually going through the numbers with your closing disclosure and find out that it's actually going to be less. So that's where I'm coming from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that 515 times 0.023. So 2.3% is 0.023. So essentially you just do that. And now we press enter. Don't get shocked. I warned you. I warned you. This number right here, that's has nothing to do with you. The number that's going to be more in line with what you're going to be paying is this number right here, almost $12,000. Now, again, I'm using the higher number. I can get even more specific if I want, and because I like you, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Know that your actual true number is going to be somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to prove that to you. So one of the ways that I'm going to prove that to you is I'm going to go to the Denton CAD right now, and I'm going to find this property. I won't show it on screen because I do not want to dox these people, and YouTube would remove that if I start putting names to these properties. But assuming that this CAD shows up or pulls up real quick, I'll be able to show you what the assessed value is. It might be down. This is what I'm seeing right now. Okay, so I won't be able to show you. Okay. Well, we have an estimate. This is this we're going to use as, this is our yearly. We're going to divide that by 12. And we're going to estimate that our property taxes are going to be $987. Now, again, this is a conservative number. You're most likely going to be paying $850 to $925 if I had to guess. Based off of personal experience, based off of the assessed value is most likely somewhere in the ballpark of $450 or less if I had to guess. I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but I'm kind of giving you kind of the more of the experience than anything, because property taxes there's two things that this channel is known for, and that our clients work with us primarily for, is property taxes, because we have that depth in knowledge, and then also new construction. So we're speaking my language right now. There's no other YouTube channel here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that has this much property tax information. So I'm not just completely coming out of left field with some of these estimates that I'm giving you. All right, so let's go into the different loan options today. So what we're going to do is we're going to say conventional 5% down is what we're going to use as one example. Option 2, we're going to give ourselves an FHA 5% down, and we're going to go back to the well and go conventional again, but this time we're going to go with 20% down. So this is the breakdown. All right, so option 1, we're going to go conventional. Option 2, we're going to go FHA, and then option 3, we're going to go back to conventional. So I want to share with you some differences. So when you purchase a property, oftentimes you're going to be purchasing it through a loan. So when you get a loan on a property, that essentially becomes a mortgage. So loan and mortgage, they're basically the same thing when you're talking about a home purchase. When you buy a property, when you get a mortgage, though, there are certain types of loans that you have available to you. You can do a conventional loan, an FHA loan, a USDA loan, a VA loan. There's multiple loan types that you have access to. Some of them have different requirements. All of them have different requirements. So it's just going to depend on if you qualify and also what's most beneficial for you. So something else to understand. When you purchase, as an example, with a conventional loan, the minimum down payment that you would need to make is 3%. So your minimum down payment for a conventional loan is 3% down. With an FHA loan, your minimum down payment there is going to be 3.5% down. So those are the differences in down payment requirements. Now, those are minimums. You can absolutely go more than that. Now, the reason that I include 20% over here is because there's this myth that you need 20% down to purchase a home. That is not the case. The reason that 20% comes up oftentimes in conversations of, hey, I need 20% down to purchase a home. The reason that that's being said is because when you hit 20% down, so when you put 20% down, you avoid what's called mortgage insurance. So mortgage insurance is an insurance that a lender puts on you in the event that you default. So if you default on your property, not only do they take the property out of your name, they take it back, but they also have this insurance on you, given that you didn't put at least 20% down. Now, don't mishear me. Even if you put 20% down, they're still going to take that property back. But with less than 20% down, they are charging you more in mortgage insurance. You're going to see that actually be called out. It says mortgage insurance. That's an additional premium, fee, expense, percentage, whatever you want to call it, that you're paying that additional every single month. So the reason that so many people are waiting or try to get at least 20% down is because they do not want to pay that mortgage insurance. And in this particular case, option 1 and number 2, we put 5% down, which is less than 20%. Thus, we're paying mortgage insurance. And you're going to see the numbers that end up showing up here shortly. So for our purposes today, we're going to say that we're going to put 5% down for conventional, 5% for FHA, because that's where most of our clients end up going, between 15 and 20%. Our length of loan is going to be 30 years. That's the most common length of loan, or loan length in years. Now, your home insurance interest rate. When you borrow, when you get a loan, again, it becomes a mortgage. When you borrow, that amount is going to be called the principal. However much you borrow, that's the principal. That's how much you owe. On top of that, there's the expense. How much does it cost for me to borrow this money? And that is your home insurance. Your home interest rate. So the mortgage interest rate, the interest rate that the lender is assessing you, that is charging you. So for you to find something that's going to be close to what is the reality of the situation today, you're going to have to go to what is the interest rate right now for buying a home. You're basically just going to Google and going to bank rate and finding what the average is right now, because it changes 24/7. So right now, at the time of this recording, which is Friday, August 30th, the interest rate is 6.43. 6.43. So we're going to go with 6.43. And we're going to go with 6.43 over here. And then we're going to go with 6.43. That is our mortgage interest rate right now. That's the average that we can expect. So this is the cost for us to borrow money. All right, so let's continue. Points. What are points? Points is where you buy down the interest rate. So whatever rate you get quoted based off of your income, based off of your loan amount, based off of your everything, your profile, whatever that happens to be, in this case we're saying is 6.43%, we have the option of buying down a point, which is another way of saying you're prepaying interest, at least how I see it. So whenever you buy a point, you are reducing the interest rate. So what's the cost of a point? Well, the point is going to cost you 1%. Hear me clearly on this one. To buy 1 point, you would be, the easiest math is to do 1% of the loan value. So if you borrowed $500,000 as an example, 1 point is going to cost you $5,000. So that's where you would put that there. Now, that's the cost of the loan, 1% of the loan amount. What's the benefit? Essentially, how much am I buying down this interest rate? Well, you would think that, hey, it's going to be 1 percentage point. No, I wish that was the case. How much you're actually buying down the interest rate is going to be, the math that I do is about a fourth of a percentage point. So basically 0.25. So here, if I got this as my estimate, 6.43, I would most likely be paying 6.2, 6.18 or so. It's going to vary, but just to give you an idea of how much 1 point will reduce the interest rate. Is this making sense? Let me know in the comment section down below. If y'all want to see a video specifically on buying down points and the break-evens, I can absolutely do that. Lender fees. Lender fees I don't include in our calculations here because they're all over the board, but to give you an idea, lender fees can go from 1 to 2%, but every lender is different. So what I encourage you to do is get this tool, which is linked down below, this Loan Clarity Advisor tool, or just go to winthehouseyoulove.com, which is our partner YouTube channel with Kyle Seagraves, and get this for yourself, and then start going through different loan options here. So go to different banks. So get your Allied First Bank quote here, then go to Wells Fargo, then to go to Chase, or whatever the case may be. Start looking at these. All right, so monthly and then input them in here. Monthly mortgage insurance. We talked about that earlier, where since we didn't put 20% down in the purchase of our home, we're paying mortgage insurance, and we're going to be paying that monthly. Now, another big distinction before I forget, with your conventional loan, so again, we're talking about this type of loan, Eventually, you get rid of that mortgage insurance. Eventually, and eventually essentially means on paper about 10 years without factoring in appreciation, which you absolutely will do here shortly. Now, with an FHA loan, since again, we put less than 20% down in both of these options, option 1 and 2, with an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance never goes away. That's going to stay there for the life of the loan. So those are two big distinctions that I don't want to get lost in the shuffle. With this tool, you have the ability of factoring in extra payments. So you get to see how much faster you can pay off a loan and also how much more you save when you put some additional payments into your loan. And you're able to do that on each one of these scenarios pretty easily. So that's something that you can do on your own. We're not going to do that in our analysis today, but know that you have that ability. Now, let's talk about the cost of borrowing, the cost and how much each one of these actually costs us, what the cost of the loan is going to be. So for our purposes today, we're going to say that in year 10, so after 10 years, what is the loan breakdown? Well, if I go a conventional 20% down, the loan cost so far would have been $246,000. That would have been the interest that would be assessed. From an FHA perspective, that same loan, well, not the same starting point, it wouldn't be the exact same loan. You're paying about $82,000 more. With a conventional 5% down, you're going to be paying about $73,000 more. Why? Well, primarily because of the amount that you borrowed is more, and also the monthly mortgage insurance is being assessed on these two types of loans. And with your FHA loan, you still have another fee on top of that, which is the finance mortgage fee, which is 1.725% of the loan amount. So you see that this alone is $30,000 worth of additional fees, expense, cost, whatever you want to call it. That's what it ends up being. Same thing with your conventional. Now remember, with your conventional, that mortgage insurance eventually goes away. With FHA, it doesn't. So you're going to see the break-even point here shortly the point where the conventional actually where the mortgage insurance goes away with your conventional loan. And you can adjust this left and right. You could make your analysis based off of 5 years to see how much you're going to save with one loan over the other, or you can go all the way to year 30, where the loan matures to its full ability, or to the full term, if you will. And then you have how much you would save and ultimately the cost. So you can make that calculation pretty easily without you having to take out the calculator. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the monthly payment breakdown. So let's see what in year 1 it's going to cost us to live in this home. So in year 1, our monthly mortgage payment for the conventional 20% is going to be almost $3,900. With an FHA, it's going to be $4,635. With the conventional 5%, it's going to be $4,624. So you see how much more it costs you in terms of monthly mortgage payment if you put less money down. It just makes sense, right? So one thing to note though is I kind of breeze through this, and I usually make a point of saying this, so I want to make sure that I do in this particular case. I recognize that this 20% down, $103,000 is a lot of money. I recognize that. The reason I show this is because some people are able to do 20% down, and that's awesome. But even if you are able to get 20% down, you also need to make a business decision of, hey, this $75,000 difference, basically, this 15% more that I'm paying, is it better off into this mortgage, into this loan? Or is it better off in another investment vehicle to see if I could actually earn more money off of that capital, right? So I share this as a breakdown so you can make the decision. I'm not shaming anybody. I'm not trying to get everybody to do 20% down. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just giving you different options. And also understand that you don't need 20% down. You could go as little as 3% down on conventional, or 3.5% down. There's options for you, right? You do not have to wait for 20% down, which is something that I myself thought whenever I was first purchasing my home. Even after my first home, I was trying to get into an investment property, and I thought, well, now I have to save money to get another loan, but this time for an investment property. And I just did not know that that was not necessary. But let's continue. So it's going to be payment, monthly payment for year 1. So you're going to see a similarity between the 3 types of loans is that most of the payment goes into the interest. Very little goes into the principal, at least at the beginning of the loan. So at the beginning of the loan, it's going to feel like you are pushing a stone up a hill. because such little goes into principal. So remember, when you borrow money, the amount that you borrow is called a principal, and what's layered on top of that is going to be basically the interest, how much it costs you to borrow money. So such little gets chipped away at the principal at the beginning that it can feel just so long. And you're going to see that here shortly and what that ultimately looks like. This is your property taxes that, again, we used a conservative number for. Your homeowner's insurance, which we used an estimate for our monthly premiums. And then the mortgage insurance that we would be paying at the beginning of the year. Well, I'm sorry, in the first year for sure with the conventional, and on through about 10 years. I'll show you when it drops off. Equity. This equity chart is very helpful in the sense that you can see how much of the home you own at any point in time. So let's just say in year 21, you want to see, well, it's been 21 years. I've been making payments pretty consistently. I haven't missed one yet. And I only have 9 years left to pay off this loan. Remember, this is a 30-year loan. So after 21 years, you're thinking, well, how much of the home do I actually own? I must own at least 66% if I know my math. Well, unfortunately, that is not the case. Even with 5% down or 20%, well, 20% down, you will get over 50% of your the equity here. But even with 5% down, you would think that you would own 60+% of your home, but you don't. The reality is that you would own about 50% of your home. Now you might be thinking, well, Jaime, 66%, it's like you have 21 years of 30. That's about 66% of the entire loan. How do I not own at least 66% of my home? The reason being is because at the beginning of your loan, you're paying mostly towards interest. It goes back to the principal, or it's not really a principal, but just being aware that most of the payment goes into the interest within the first several years. Somebody from Denton is calling me. Who is calling me? Ironically enough. So yeah, that's something to be mindful of. Now, also just as a aside, really you're going to be paying mostly into interest for the first 19 and a half years. You're not going to really see that inversion of you paying more into the principal than the interest until about year 20 or so. Between 19 to year 20, that's when you start seeing that break between the two. We talked about mortgage insurance quite a bit. So the only thing I wanted to show here is that your mortgage insurance falls away after 10 years and 3 months with the conventional 5% down. Now, this is not factoring in appreciation. Once you factor in appreciation, you're actually going to have your mortgage insurance is going to fall off a little bit quicker. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this scenario real quick. So let's talk about our exit strategy, because that's something that a lot of our clients and I really spend a lot of time on. So whenever we have our buyer discovery call or a seller discovery call, really it's both, but when we have discovery calls with our clients, we look at our exit strategy. We look at the goals that we have right now, but we also look where we want to be in the next 5-10 years and beyond. So oftentimes what happens is we run this simulation of, all right, well, let's talk about our exit strategy in about 10 years when you call me again saying, hey, I want to sell this house and I want to move to another area, right? Because statistically, homeowners are going to sell their home in about 8 to 10 years. So we use 10 years as a benchmark. So we need to find out what is our expense going to be, how much, and how does that compare against renting in a specific area. So after 10 years, we're going to assume that every single year in those 10 years, the home appreciated 3%. Then we're also going to assume that after those 6 years, we're going to sell, after those 10 years, we're going to sell, and it's going to cost us, let's say 6.5% to sell this house. It's going to factor in title work. It's going to factor in fixing up the property a little bit. It's going to factor in realtor fees. So it's going to factor all that. So essentially my cost to sell this house, I'm going to say it's 6.5% at the end of the rainbow. At the same time, I'm also going to estimate that our property taxes are going to increase every year, which is something that's probably going to happen given that the home is going to continue to appreciate most likely. So we're going to factor in 3% increase in property taxes every year. And we're also going to factor in another 3% increase in home insurance per year because it's becoming more and more expensive to replace the home, and insurance premiums for home and auto and everything in between is getting much more expensive. So this is a real life scenario. This is something that could very easily happen, and it's a very conservative analysis. So I'm not trying to skew or put my thumb on any scale left or right. I just want to share with you the numbers that we use. Well, given this scenario, after 10 years, the home will have appreciated about $177,000. Remember, we're buying this Denton house right here, this Denton home, $515,000. Well, after those 10 years, making those assumptions come to life, the home appreciated about $177,000. The cost to sell this house was about $45,000 at the end of the rainbow. Our loan cost, that is going to be different depending on the loan. So conventional 5%, it cost us $320. FHA 5% cost us $329. Conventional cost us $246. So the loan cost was different, but everything else is the same because it doesn't factor in, nor does it matter how you finance that property after, outside of the loan cost. Property taxes, we'd be paying this much in property taxes. Homeowners insurance, we'd be paying this in homeowners insurance. Now, as far as the benefit to cost, it would have cost us about $368,000 to live in this home for 10 years. If we would have gone with this loan, if we would have gone with this FHA 5%, it would have cost us $378, and a conventional 20% would have cost us $294. That is what our expense for housing would have been for these 10 years, factoring in how much home equity we gained versus how much it actually cost us to live in this home. Now, for comparison, if you're considering renting as opposed to buying, then for comparison, a rental payment would be about $3,000 per month with an annual increase of about 3% per year. You're looking at $413,000 in rental payments, right? So now you get to see really as apples to apples as you possibly can get from the homeownership versus renting part, which this way you get to make this analysis for yourself, and you can adjust it left and right. You can adjust it. Hey, if I lived in this house in 15 years, what does that look like? Well, you see the expense here, depending on the loan, and also how much you could expect to pay in rental expenses. Folks, if you found value in this video, please let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Comment Denton to let me know, hey, that you're finding value in this video. If you want to see another breakdown on another city, just also comment down below. If you're looking to buy or sell, our contact information is down below. Make sure you check that out so you don't miss a beat. Outside of that, I appreciate the heck out of you. If we can help you in one way, shape, or another, just let us know. See you on the next video. Thanks so much.